Yo, what is up guys, your boy IzuKage here with the 10k special, a movie. And this what if Naruto had sunshine. It isn't even the 10k special anymore, I hit 11k recently, but I'll do a special for that as well. Anyways, if you guys go on to enjoy the video, I urge you to subscribe. These videos take a really long time to make, especially the movies. Also, if you feel like hitting me up or just want to chat with the community, Discord link in the description. But with all that said, I hope you guys go on to enjoy the What If. We start this What If off with Naruto at the age of 6. He's lived his usual life in the village, hated by most, due to fear and anger for what he's done, and by that I mean what the Nine Tails has done. But the villagers have a pretty low IQ, so they think Naruto is the Nine Tails for some reason. So Naruto is out playing with his friends Choji and Shikamaru, and in the playground another group of kids have been watching Naruto for a few days now, hatching a plan to get rid of him so their parents could finally be happy. So the leader of the group, let's call him Kyle. Kyle walks up to Naruto and says, "Hey Naruto, do you want to play a game?" Naruto was confused by this, these guys never talk to him, so why now? But he and the kid just wanted to have fun, so he agrees. He said, "Sure, what game?" And the kid thinks for a moment and says, "How about hide and seek?" Naruto, happy to finally be in with the cool kids, jumped up ready to play, ignoring Choji and Shikamaru. So one of the kids starts to count and Kyle runs up to Naruto, telling him he had the best hiding spot where no one would ever find them. So Kyle grabs Naruto's arm and starts running outside the playground to an alleyway nearby. He said, "It's right here," and they crawl into a small spot in between two buildings. They hid there for a couple minutes or so when Kyle, who was behind Naruto, reached into his pocket and pulled out a kunai. He looked at it and gripped it tightly. He can finally avenge his dead mother and make his dad proud. The kid used both arms to grab the kunai and raised it above his head. Naruto, realizing the kid has been pretty silent for the past few minutes, so he turned around to witness the kunai coming right down into his chest, breaking his ribs and puncturing his lungs and going through his heart. Blood started spraying out, covering the walls and the boy's clothes. Soon, footsteps came into the alleyway and the whole gang of kids showed up. They saw Naruto there, just lying lifeless on the ground, and they began cheering, high-fiving each other. Finally, that nuisance is dead, and for good. Kyle gets up and exits where they were hiding by walking on Naruto's corpse, and the kids start to talk about how they will be awarded as saviors of the leaf. Meanwhile, the sun rose to high noon and a faint voice whispered to Naruto, "The sun grants you second life." Naruto's entire body started heating up. The kunai lodged in his chest, flew out, and the wound closed itself, and Naruto's body began to grow. One of the kids mentioned, "Is it just me or it's getting super hot?" And the other kid realized it as well and they all began sweating. Kyle turns around to see if this has anything to do with Naruto. And when he does, he sees Naruto there lying, lifeless like he saw him the past second ago. But he looked older. So he stepped closer and the heat got even more intense. Naruto was still unconscious, so he was unable to regulate the heat coming out of his body. So it kept expanding, actually melting the buildings around him. The kids tried to run, but one of the buildings with a melted base fell over onto all 5 of them, killing them instantly. Villagers passing by screamed as they just saw kids die, but couldn't go near because of this immense heat. So as the day went on, ninjas were called to the area, but still nothing could be done because of this seemingly random heat coming from this area. If anyone got close, their clothes would just erupt into flames. But by nighttime, the area finally started to cool down and Ambu cleared the rubble to recover the kid's body, and while doing that they found Naruto's body, but unlike the others, he was surprisingly alive, but severely burnt all over. So they brought Naruto to the hospital to be treated. Hiruzen was informed of the incident and rushed over to the hospital to check on Naruto, but when he entered the room, he saw Naruto's entire body bandaged up. The medical ninjas told him he was found with several degree burns all over his body, so they would need a lot of time to heal. 2 weeks later, during that time, the ninjas had been slowly removing the bandages as each area began to heal, and during the night, Naruto woke up. He looked around and didn't see anyone, so he tried getting up on his own, but it had been 2 weeks and his legs were completely tired, like he couldn't support his own weight. So after taking one step, he fell over and dragged a tray of medical equipment with him. This all made a really loud noise, alerting the medical staff. A female medical ninja came rushing into the room and freaked out seeing Naruto out of bed. She rushed to help him back in and she said, "What are you doing? You need to rest." Naruto stayed silent and she said again, "Just stay here, I'll get the Hokage." And she sprinted off, returning 5 minutes later with Hiruzen. Hiruzen, seeing Naruto sitting up, was relieved he survived. Hiruzen tried to talk to Naruto, but he began shaking. From Hiruzen's point of view, he thought he was scared or maybe even cold. But from Naruto's point of view, all the memories of what happened were coming back to him, and this incredible power he felt. He was excited. So Hiruzen brought Naruto home to rest and said he'd be back tomorrow to check on him. So fast forward to the next day, and Naruto wakes up and he gets out of bed and he's feeling really good, like the healthiest he's ever felt yet. Naruto goes to the fridge to open the door to, get something to eat. But when he grabs it, he accidentally rips the entire door off the hinges. Naruto froze just looking at the door like, what the hell? And Naruto dropped it and rushed to the bathroom, and in the mirror he looked more or less the same but was noticeably taller and had more defined muscles. Naruto didn't know what to think. This was amazing and thought, how was this even possible? Then thoughts of the faint whisper came back to him and he said, so this must be the second chance of life. He remembered something about the sun, but his memory's all foggy, he can't get much detail. So Naruto decided to stay inside. If anyone saw him like this, who knows what they would think really. So he better lay low for now. So fast forward 2 years. And during all this time, Naruto had realized something. His ability would match with the sun, so even though he was strong during the day, ninjas would often go on missions during night. So Naruto practiced some taijutsu to, if he was caught off guard, he would be ready. He learned this from some crazy kid in a green jumpsuit going all around the village, like on his hands. So to the present day. Naruto is 8 years old, and you know what that means? It's the start of the academy. Naruto had to quote-unquote borrow some new clothes because it was like every day he grew stronger and bigger. Naruto leaves his house and starts hopping from rooftop to get to school. He finally gets there and registers himself in, and in Iruka's class, Naruto walks in and everyone's attention shifts to him. People were whispering, wondering, who's the new kid? Naruto looked so different, people didn't even realize he was Naruto. He was about 5'5", while everyone in the class was under 5 foot. So Naruto goes up to the steps to the back of the class, and next to the window, main character stuff. And he sits down. Ino and 2 other girls from the class came up to introduce themselves. Ino said, "Hi, my name is Ino, what's yours?" Naruto tilted his head because people never treated him like this. He said, "Well, my name is Naruto." The 2 girls said, "Ew," and ran off. Naruto didn't care though and just turned back to the window. But surprisingly, Ino sat down next to him and said, "Naruto, is that really you?" Naruto said, "Aren't you gonna run off like them too? I'm the demon, remember?" Ino said, "I don't care about that. What happened to you?" Naruto stretched out his arms and said, "I guess I grew a bit." Ino was wondering how oblivious was he, and she raised her voice and she said, "You grew more than a little bit. You look like a completely different person." Before Naruto could say anything though, Iruka walked in and he went up to his teaching pedestal and put down a scroll and said, "Nice to meet all of you. I'm Iruka and I'll be your teacher for the foreseeable future." Iruka then started taking attendance, and when he said Naruto Uzumaki, Sakura butted in and said, "Iruka, he didn't even bother showing up. I guess it's for the best though." But before Iruka marked him absent, Naruto said, "No, I'm here." And the whole class turned to Naruto with confusion written all over their face. Shikamaru spoke up and said, "Did it really take you guys that long to realize?" Then the whole class debate started springing out about, is this really even Naruto? But Iruka finally got the class under control and said, "Well, let's just start with a new topic, ninja history. So because they're learning, you guys have to learn too. So what is each Hokage's signature jutsu? Leave that in the comments. And for example, how Naruto's is the Shadow Clone and Rasengan. So leave that for all the other Hokages. We'll see who can get all of them right. Well, obviously except Naruto, since I already gave you the answer. But yeah, back to the story. During all his classes, Naruto is actually taking notes in class from everything Iruka was saying because he knows it takes intelligence to be a proficient ninja, not just, brute strength. So as the day goes on, Naruto is just vibing, he has lunch, and towards the end, Iruka announces their first assessment test. Everyone in the class sighs like, "Really bro, it's the first day." But they have to do it anyways. Iruka says, "Don't stress guys, all this test is to see where you're at so we can measure your growth as you go on in the academy." Everyone reluctantly got up and they went out to the field. There, Iruka has all the class members line up for shuriken training. Everyone goes out of 5. Most either get 1 or none, with exceptions for students like Sasuke who got 3. But when Naruto got to the front of the line, he throws his kunais the best he could and only got 2 out of 5. Some students in the class started actually laughing at him, but Naruto just walked off not really caring. Next up is the sparring matches. Everyone gets paired up, and with Naruto, he gets a pair with Sasuke. So they enter the sparring ring, bow, and Iruka says "Hajime" or begin. Sasuke runs at Naruto thinking, "I'll finish this quickly," and he runs and punches him in the chest, and everyone cheers saying, "Solid hit, get him Sasuke." But Sasuke's hands started shaking from the pressure, and he looked up and Naruto was just looking down at him and said one word, "Weak," and punched Sasuke in the stomach, sending him flying across the ground, stopping right before being out of bounds. Sasuke held his stomach in pain and coughed up spit. He struggled to get up, and when he faced Naruto, he didn't see that goofy kid anymore. He was a monster in terms of strength and raw power. Sasuke thought, "What is he?" and made the best decision in his life. Stepped out of the circle himself out of pure fear. Iruka was surprised but announced Naruto Uzumaki wins. Ino as well as Sasuke and everyone else was surprised Naruto won. Was this even Naruto? No way, he must be lying. So anyways, after everyone finishes their sparring, Iruka just lets them go for the day because some people needed medical attention. So Naruto walks out of school and on his way home, but from behind him he heard someone call out his name. "Naruto, wait up!" He turns around and sees Ino running at him, and when she finally caught up, she stopped to catch her breath and says, "Hold on, let's walk together." Naruto said, sure. So they start walking and Ino starts laying on question after question. "Are you really Naruto? How did you beat Sasuke so easily? Why are you so tall? Why are you so strong?" Naruto said, "Slow down, I didn't even hear one thing you said." Ino chuckled nervously and said, "Do you always take the long way home?" And Naruto said, "Well, I have nothing better to do." And Ino said, "You're lucky, my dumb parents want me home as soon as school is over." After Ino said that, there was a wave of silence over the two. And after a few minutes, she said, "Are you okay?" Naruto said, "Yeah, I'm fine. Well, this is my house. See ya." Naruto started walking up the stairs to his house and Ino was wondering what was that all about. So anyway, she heads home herself, and when she gets there, her mom said, "Welcome home, Ino." And she responds. So later that day, when her dad gets home and the family is having dinner together, Ino says, "Hey dad, do you know anything about Naruto?" Inoichi was eating his food and hearing the name, choked on his food. He cleared his throat and said, what about him? Ino said, well, I was talking to him, but when I mentioned my parents, he sort of went silent. Inoichi said, well, you do know he doesn't have parents, right? And Ino was surprised, she kept questioning him like, does he live by himself? Inoichi said, well, I guess so. And she says, but he's only 8. Inoichi said, well, life isn't fair sometimes, and Naruto got the short end of the stick. Ino stayed quiet and finished her dinner, but kept thinking about what her dad said the entire night. So, if I keep explaining their everydays at school, we'll be here for a while, so let's have a time skip to the graduation exams. During these 5 years, Naruto had changed immensely. As he grows, the power of sunshine becomes more powerful, changing his personality with it, but this was a fraction of what Naruto had to offer. So on the day of the graduation exams, before Naruto wakes up, the rays of the sun came through his window and a voice spoke to him. Wake up. Naruto's eyes twitched and the voice continued. As he shot out of bed, Naruto had a cold sweat running down his back and said, Who's there? Looking around his room. Naruto thought to himself, it must be nothing. And the voice said again, it seems the power of sunshine has taken a liking to you. Naruto was still confused and said out loud, what is sunshine? The voice said, don't be startled, let me explain. The power which you have is sunshine. After Mael went rogue, we thought it would fit you best. Of course, this is only a quarter of the power, so you don't grow to monstrous size, but I and the other angels have decided the best way to give you the rest of the power. Naruto asked how, and the angel responded, do you know why people in the village hate you? Naruto stopped to think and he really doesn't know why. Yeah, they call him demon, but he doesn't know the reason for that. So the angel begins to explain to Naruto what happened 13 years ago, and that the Nine Tails is sealed within him. The more she explains, Naruto begins to think about how it's all starting to make sense. Then the angel says, even though the Nine Tails is powerful, it's really useless compared to the power of an angel. So we decided to put that damn fox to work. It'll work like a battery, so your body absorbs the power of the sun, giving you a quarter and Kurama the rest to store. Naruto was a bit overwhelmed by all this information at once, but he thinks he understands. And just then the heat in Naruto's body began to rise to a boiling point. What was a light sweat turned into a pool. He felt like he was dying, and at that moment it stopped, and he felt the heat converge into the seal on his stomach, then disappeared. Naruto thought it must have taken effect, so he gets himself together, but when Naruto tries to put on his clothes, he basically rips right through them. Naruto sighs as he knows he'd have to get new clothes, but luckily, after this had happened a few times, he had bought clothes larger than him, so, the ones that stretch. So Naruto had on some black Ambu style pants and his regular ninja accessories like his headband and kunai pouch. So ready, Naruto heads to the academy. He walks in and it was like the first day all over again. Naruto not only grew taller, but he was very muscular. He walks past Iruka and Iruka himself had to look up like an inch to look Naruto in the eyes. He walks to the back of the class where he usually sits down, and for a second, Ino looked shocked, but she just came to accept this from Naruto. Plus, the day is just more interesting with him around. So Naruto sits down and Iruka says, like you all know, today will be your last day at the academy. So let's get right into it. I brought Mizuki sensei here to help out as well. Mizuki walked into the class and had on a big smile until it faded when he saw Naruto. Mizuki wasn't happy, especially when he has to stay calm in the same room as the kid who killed his son. Yes, one of the boys from earlier was Mizuki's son, and even though it wasn't proven, his hatred for Naruto led him to believe that Naruto killed them. So Mizuki, with his hair covering his eyes, took the papers from Iruka and went to hand them out. He passed them out, and when he eventually reached Naruto's table, As he was giving it to Ino, she was trying to like take it from him, but he was gripping it tightly. Ino then said, Mizuki-sensei, the paper. He snapped out of this trance and says, oh, my apologies. You can give that one to Naruto. You can take this new one. So the paper was crumpled but still readable, so the test starts and Mizuki's eyes were glued onto Naruto. Not for a minute did he look away, looking for a sign of him cheating so he could call him out on it. But to his surprise, Naruto didn't look up from his paper once. And when the bell rang to signal the end, they passed their papers to the front. Mizuki gritted his teeth. Iruka was going to collect all the papers, but Mizuki butts in and said, you know what, Iruka, I can handle all of these. I'll mark them. You take the students outside. Iruka asked if everything was okay, and he shook his head yes. So he lets him have it and then says, well, everyone outside. So while they were all doing that, in the teacher's lounge, Mizuki was flipping through the papers trying to find it. And yes, Naruto's paper, it was the only one crumpled. He was going to mark everything wrong, but just crushed it up into a ball and threw it in the bin, scoring a 3-pointer. Wow, he should join the NBA. Back outside, everyone was doing their physical test, timed 400-meter laps, shuriken and kunai accuracy. Iruka said, alright guys, everything looks good, now to decide the rookie of the year. The two candidates, Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha. Hearing Naruto's name, the girls booed but when it came to Sasuke, the man, the myth, the legend, it was understandable the girls cheered and shouted his name. Now Iruka prepared a pretty large ring. In the middle of the field, Naruto stood opposite to Sasuke and felt the sun beating down on his skin. It was refreshing. He closed his eyes to enjoy it, and Sasuke was thinking, what the hell is he doing? Is this some kind of joke? Iruka called out to Naruto saying, are you ready? Naruto took a deep breath and gave Iruka a thumbs up. He asked the same to Sasuke and he said yes. So with both ready, Iruka said fight. Sasuke and Naruto ran at each other and sent a punch, both colliding in mid-air. But what seemed to be equal turned sharply into Naruto's favor. This punch sent waves of pain through Sasuke's hand, and it felt like hairline fractures spreading throughout his arm. He quickly jumped back to weave hand signs for a great fireball jutsu. Seeing this, Iruka was scared, what if Naruto got seriously injured? He was ready to stop the match, seeing that it was heading straight for Naruto and he wasn't dodging. But Naruto opened his arms wide open and the fireball hit him. The Sasuke fangirls cheered, they rejoiced, saying, I knew Sasuke would win. Iruka was terrified, but when the smoke cleared, Naruto was standing there with his shirt slowly burning off, revealing the physique of what could only be described as a god. Not only did Naruto seem unfazed, but the attack seemed to make him stronger. Sasuke went blind from the light glistening off Naruto's 16-pack, but he couldn't lose now. He's in this fight not for himself or some selfish desire. He fights for his clan. All those who've died, he has to bring the Uchiha clan back to prominence. And if it means beating Naruto bloody, he'll do it. Sasuke ran at full speeds to Naruto, but Naruto saw Sasuke as some insignificant speck to be dealt with quickly. Naruto turned away from Sasuke and fanned him away with his hands, trying to ward him off like an insect, but Sasuke dodged this and goes for a rapid punch to his side. But to Naruto, it was getting a good massage, but he swung his arm back at Sasuke, knocking him away. Naruto turned to him and says, so you wanna fight? You'll get one. Naruto is almost like a blur, towering over Sasuke and went to punch down onto the ground, but Sasuke dodged at the last minute, rolling out of the way. But Naruto's punch was similar to Tsunade's, not as destructive, but cracks started appearing in the ground. Sasuke quickly tried his other jutsu, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. 3 fireballs shot out and hit Naruto head on. Everyone watching was silent. When the jutsu hit Naruto, he stood there and looked towards the ground. He looked back to Sasuke and said, so you wanna play with fire? I'll show you what real fire is. Naruto points his finger towards the sun and started channeling all his sunshine power to the tip of his finger. He began shrinking in size, but from his finger a mini sun appeared, the size of a basketball. Naruto said, "Cruel sun," and threw it at Sasuke. Sasuke didn't expect it to move as quick as it did, and he got hit right in the chest. Sasuke got knocked to the ground and the move scorched his entire torso. Sakura ran in to help Sasuke. She knelt down to check on him and he was barely conscious. She quickly picked up Sasuke and struggled to bring him to the infirmary, crying the entire time. Iruka was silent, trying to process everything that happened, but as Naruto was walking off, he said, Naruto wins, I guess, and the rest of the fights continued. In the infirmary, Sasuke got treated, but they said he needs to rest. And Sasuke then woke up out of nowhere, but because he got up so quickly, he opened up some of his wounds, causing even more pain. He held his chest from the pain, and Sakura got up worried, asking, if there's anything she could do, but Sasuke, annoyed, said, "Just leave, you aren't of any use." Meanwhile, back with Hiruzen, he was looking through his crystal ball and saw this fight. He was intrigued by what he saw. In the leaf, there was a legend similar to the Child of Prophecy, for the Toads. This prophecy foretold of a child that took control of the sun and became one. One in the prophecy is the humanoid form of the sun. So Hiruzen thought, could this really be Naruto? People only saw this as like folklore. So back at the academy, Naruto was sitting in class when Sasuke came limping in and Sakura following behind. He got to his seat and Mizuki came into the class with all the grades. Iruka was about to start reading them, but Hiruzen walked into the class. Iruka and Mizuki bowed, saying, "Lord Hokage, what brings you here?" He says, "No need to bow, I just want to see our next generation in the flesh." He walked into the class and told Iruka, he could continue. So Iruka said, "Well, I'll be calling out the grades," and then announced the Rookie of the Year. So he starts going down the list, and when it comes to Naruto, he was confused because it was really low. Naruto in this isn't that dumb, but before he said it, Hiruzen said, "Oh, by the way, Iruka, I saw this in the trash on my way here." He flattened the paper and it was Naruto's paper. Iruka and Hiruzen both looked at Mizuki and said, "What's the meaning of this?" He started to feel cornered, then ran for the door, but when he opened it, 2 Anbu members were already waiting there for him, and they took him away. Iruka asked, "But Hokage, how did you know?" And he said, "Just a hunch." Iruka knew that this was just cap, but it was probably some S-rank secret anyways. But he marked Naruto's paper and he got a pretty good score, 96%. So after all that, Iruka said the Rookie of the Year is Naruto Uzumaki. Of course, people felt cheated, like how can the demon be the Rookie of the Year? But with Hiruzen here, they couldn't act out. So Iruka tells everyone to come in tomorrow to meet their new senseis. So, class dismissed. Everyone rushes out of the classroom while Sasuke was just sitting down, and while Naruto was walking past, he said, "Naruto, wait." He raised an eyebrow and turned to Sasuke and said, "You need something?" Sasuke struggled to get it out but said, "How are you so strong?" Naruto said, "Sasuke, what I have you'll never achieve, but I know vengeance won't get you anywhere. So fight, but for the right reason." And Naruto walked off. In the hall, Ino caught up with Naruto and asked, "What was that all about?" And he shrugged his shoulders. And Naruto asked, "Why are you always walking with me?" Ino said, No reason, we just live in the same direction." And she jogged far ahead of him. So, not much happens that day, so back to the academy the next day. And it's time for team selections. Iruka is standing up with a list in front of him and first says Team 8, Kiba, Shino, and Hinata. Team 10, Choji, Shikamaru, and Sakura. Team 7, Naruto, Sasuke, and Ino. Sakura protested, saying, "I don't want to be on a team with these two." Iruka said, well Sakura, these teams were selected by the Hokage himself. Sakura knew she couldn't do anything about it, so she folded her arms and sat down. Iruka tells them goodbye and to wait for their senseis to come. While waiting, Sakura got close to Ino and said, you got lucky this time, with Sasuke on your team. Ino looked at Sakura and said, you really need to grow up. I'm over Sasuke. You should open your eyes and realize he doesn't care about you. And Ino turned back around, leaving Sakura confused, angry, and sad, because she knew that there's some truth to that. So everyone is sitting around waiting when a few Jonin walk in the class. They take their teams like Asuma and Kurenai, but Team 7 had to wait a bit, but actually not for long. Kakashi showed up pretty quickly and greeted his new team. He said, so, meet you guys on the roof, and he disappeared in the wind. So the three of them get up and start walking to the roof, and while walking, Naruto says to Ino, hey, I'm glad you're on my team, Ino got flustered and says, yeah, it's whatever, I don't really care though. Naruto smiles and focuses back to walking. So they made it to the roof and Kakashi was there waiting. He says this will just be a little way for us to get to know each other. First name, then what you like and dislike, then your goals. So let's start with you, pointing to Sasuke. He said, well, my name is Sasuke Uchiha, I like Dango, and I dislike someone. My goal is to find out the truth. Hearing this, Naruto had a smile on his face. Seems Sasuke actually listened for once. Then Ino says her name, Ino Yamanaka. She likes her flower shop, dislikes Sakura, and her goal is to train hard to become a clan head and marry someone good to her one day. Kakashi nodded at this and gestured to Naruto to continue. Well, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, I like ramen and the sun, I dislike nighttime, and my goal is to one day become the Hokage. Kakashi said, well, it's nice to meet all of you. I'll be your Jonin sensei for pretty much life. And your first test as a team will be tomorrow at Training Ground A, so see you there. And Kakashi burst into a cloud of smoke. With the real Kakashi, he was at the Hokage's office, and when the memories of the clone came to him, he told Hiruzen that Naruto's dream is to become the Hokage, so there's no need to worry. Hiruzen let out a sigh of relief and said, well, now I know the village will be in good hands someday. Back with Naruto, he was walking home when Ino stopped him. She said, hey Naruto. He turned around and said, what's up? Ino said, well, if you want, my dad's cooking a lot of food today to celebrate, you want to come over? Ino was expecting a no, but Naruto actually said, sure, like I have anything else to do. She said, perfect, I mean, that's cool and all, just follow me. She makes their way to Ino's house and it was turning to nighttime, so Naruto shrank about 4 inches to 5'6". They made it to Ino's house and she walks in with Naruto. She takes him to the dining room where Ino's mom sees him and says, oh, Ino, you brought your boyfriend. Ino quickly corrected her and said, no, he's just my classmate. Ino's mom went around and sat Naruto down saying, don't be shy, we love guests. Inoichi came downstairs and when he saw Naruto, his eyes narrowed. He slowly sat down, keeping his eyes on Naruto the entire time. But then Ino's mom bonked him on the top of the head and said, hey, stop that, you'll scare him off. Inoichi said, okay. And then he said to Naruto, anyways, what are your plans with my daughter? Ino butts in and said, Dad, we're just classmates. Inoichi said, sure. Then Ino's mom said, watch out, and she started bringing out all the food, and it was a feast. From fish to chicken to ramen, it had anything you could ever want. So the whole family started chowing down and started some small talk. And by the end of it, Naruto fell back in his chair and said, I'm stuffed. Ino's mom looked proud and said, well, just let us know whenever you want to come over. Inoichi said, yeah, we'll make you these food anytime. Naruto just couldn't understand why they were being this kind to him. Inoichi got up to gather all the plates and he said under his breath, Minato would be proud. Naruto said, huh, you said something? Inoichi quickly said, no, just talking to myself. "Naruto, you're welcome here anytime. It was fun having you." Naruto bowed and thanked both of them, and he was walking to the door when Ino's mom said, "Ino, get up, get your butt up and see him out." Ino groaned and said, "Fine," and she got there and opened the door for him. And as he was walking off, Ino called his name again and said, "Naruto, wait." Naruto turned around, and as he did, he got a hug. Naruto looked confused but wrapped his arms around her as well. After a while, Ino released the hug and looked embarrassed and said, "I'm also glad we're on the same team," and ran back inside. She shut the door and leaned against it, breathing heavily, and when she looked up, she saw both her parents peeking around the corner, and they both put their thumbs up, and she went completely red and ran up to her bedroom. So fast forward to the next day, and we see Naruto, Sasuke, and Ino waiting at the training ground. So Kakashi arrived late, but nothing like hours late or anything like that. He says, "Alright, now it's time for the bell test." Kakashi explains all the rules, and unlike some of the other teams, they didn't question anything, they just ready to go. And Kakashi was like, "Okay, I like your energy already. Now begin." And all three of them dash into the forest in a bush, Naruto, Sasuke, and Ino making sure they have eyes on Kakashi. Naruto started to plot the best course of action. So 5 minutes later, Kakashi put his book down and thought, he should probably go and check on them now. And when he looked down to put the book in his pouch, Sasuke jumped out of the forest, releasing a fireball jutsu. Kakashi did a backflip to dodge this, but before he landed, Naruto came in from behind him and with a full strength punched Kakashi. When he hit him in the back, he poofed into a cloud of smoke. The real Kakashi was reading his book in a nearby tree. He jumped down and said, "Well done you two, but you won't take me down that easily." Kakashi lifted his headband and Naruto smiled, said, "Well, try this," and he threw a single kunai at Kakashi. Kakashi thought this was a joke or something and he caught it in mid-air, but Naruto infused his sunshine into the kunai, making it blazing hot. Kakashi dropped it and started gritting his teeth in pain, trying to avoid screaming out like a girl. From the same tree he was on, Ino came from behind it, and in this moment of distraction, she lunged for one of the bells, but when she stepped out, she fell right into a trap and got pulled up by the leg into the tree. Kakashi said, "You can't hide from me, Ino," and revealed his Sharingan. Sasuke's eyes widened. Seeing this, he shouted, "Where did you get those?" Kakashi said, "Well, it was a gift from an Uchiha." Sasuke just couldn't believe it. Why the hell would an Uchiha give up his eye? "You must be lying," and he ran at Kakashi. Naruto shouted, "Don't, follow the plan." But Sasuke wasn't listening. He got into a taijutsu fight with Kakashi, but as we can all predict, it just didn't go well for him. Kakashi dropped Sasuke within seconds, restricting him to the ground, but this gave Naruto an opening attack. He blitzed Kakashi at blinding speeds and tried kicking him, but he caught the attack with his palm. As the sun drew higher, Naruto felt a subtle increase in strength, and he said, "Not bad, but try this." He spun around and using the back of his fist hit Kakashi back into a tree. Kakashi gasped for air, and when he looked up, his vision wasn't too clear, but he saw something big and bright. But before Naruto could use this move, Sasuke shouted, "Stop!" And Naruto raised an eyebrow. Then Sasuke showed him the bells he had taken from Kakashi when he had him pinned down. Sasuke said, "Oh, good work," and the ball of flame slowly faded away. Naruto went to help Kakashi and bring him to the hospital while Sasuke helped Ino down from the tree. At the hospital, Naruto left Kakashi in the care of the medical ninjas. So fast forward to the end of the day, and Hiruzen came to visit Kakashi in the hospital. Kakashi explained how Naruto was way stronger than he thought. Hiruzen was somewhat scared but hopeful. Scared of how easily he took Kakashi down and hopeful that Naruto will protect the village no matter what. And he had a way to make sure of it, but it's not necessary right now. So fast forward to a week later, and Team 7 met up in the Hokage mansion to receive their first mission. Kakashi didn't think much of this, just, the usual catch a cat or collect garbage, but Hiruzen said, "You guys really seem to have a lot of potential, so I'm giving you a C rank mission." Kakashi was dumbfounded. The Ambus around Hiruzen were confused, even Sasuke and Ino were, because they knew you had to do a certain amount of D rank missions to start getting C ranks. Kakashi said, Hokage, are you sure? And Hiruzen said, positive. It's only a C rank escort mission, so your team should be fine. Kakashi hesitantly accepted, and Hiruzen called in their client. Tazuna stumbled into the room and said, "So these are the brats escorting me? I paid good money and this is all I get?" But Tazuna laid his eyes on Naruto and immediately went sober. "Oh, I see I'll be protected well then. Well, thank you, Hokage." And he walked out. Ino said, "Was it just me or did he just completely change his demeanor?" Sasuke and Naruto said, "No, he did." So we jump to the next day at the entrance of the Leaf Village, and Tazuna is waiting there patiently when Team 7 arrive. Kakashi said, "Have you all got what you need?" And they all nod, so they set off to the Land of Waves. While walking, the team is approaching a puddle, nothing to worry about, but Naruto realized that for the past few days the sun has been quite hot, so how is this puddle not evaporated yet? But as the team walked closer to it, he started to feel heat signatures coming from the puddle, that of a human, so that confirms it. Naruto jumps out in front of the group, punching down into the ground. This broke the ground up, causing the ninjas to get stuck, and they struggled to get out, but it was no use, they were trapped. Kakashi said, "Nice work, Naruto," and he started asking relentless questions to the demon brothers, but they wouldn't answer. Kakashi then held up a kunai to one of their necks and said, "Talk, or this will be your last breath." The brother got out, "Never." And Kakashi pressed the kunai up to his throat, cutting through the skin and soon his trachea. Kakashi repeated again, "Talk. I'll find out sooner or later, so it's your life or..." But before he could even finish, the demon brother said, "Do you think I'm afraid of death? I'm a ninja, that's what life is." So Kakashi said, "Okay," and waved hand signs and said, "Oh well, you wanted this." And the sound of 1,000 birds echoed throughout the forest. So did the brothers' screams. Ino and Tazuna had to look away, and Naruto and Sasuke looked, but it wasn't a pleasant sight. Anyways, Kakashi sealed the two bodies in an Uzumaki scroll to return them in for, cash. They're in the bingo book after all. So the team gets back on their way to the Land of Waves. As they draw nearer, the team sense a sort of uneasiness in the air. It seems quiet, a bit too quiet, when a bush ruffled and Kakashi swiftly threw a kunai at it, but when they checked what it was only a snow rabbit. But this caused even more suspicion. Ino asked Kakashi, what's wrong? And he said, that rabbit just now was a snow rabbit in the middle of summer. Why would its coat look like that? Ino couldn't think of any solution, but Sasuke spoke up and said, summoning jutsu. My brother can summon crows, so who's to say someone can't summon a rabbit? Now, it all started to make sense, and Kakashi began putting all the dots together, but just then the sound of something cutting through the air came closer and closer. Kakashi yelled duck and a sword came flying overhead, but Naruto didn't duck. He extended his arm and caught the sword. Everyone was shocked and Zabuza came out of hiding and said, "Impressive kid, you must really be strong." Naruto said something like that and threw the blade at Zabuza. It was coming in too quickly, so he had to dodge, but it didn't just get lodged into the tree, it cut right through it and fell into the lake. Zabuza became angry. "My sword!" And he turned to Naruto and started weaving hand signs. Kakashi shouted, "Get back!" but Naruto ran at the attack. A water dragon formed and dashed at Naruto, but before it could even hit him, it evaporated. Naruto chuckled and said, "Water-style jutsus have no effect on me." and got close enough to punch Zabuza in the face, sending him far back. And Naruto yelled, "Ino, now!" Ino created a unique hand style, then said, "Mind transfer jutsu." But this link only lasted seconds as Zabuza's mind was sharpened through years of killing with no remorse. He kicked Ino out of his mind, and in real life she fell over, but not before Sasuke caught her. Naruto got back to check on her, and Kakashi said, "Well, I guess this is my fight." He lifted his headband and immediately went to use his Chidori. He ran max speed at Zabuza, who tried blocking, but the Chidori cut right through his arm. Zabuza screamed in pain, but this was a sort of signal, because after that, Senbon came flying out of the woods into Zabuza's neck, killing him. From the forest, a hidden mist tracking ninja came to collect Zabuza's body. The ninja recounted his time spent trying to capture Zabuza and how exhausting it was, but finally he did and can return to the village. Kakashi was suspicious, but when he checked Zabuza's heart, it had stopped beating, and with a missing arm, he should bleed out pretty soon. So he let him take the body, and Kakashi looked back at his team, and Naruto was carrying Ino on his back, and Tazuna and Sasuke were watching the fight. As the group was walking off, Naruto said, "Hold on, give me a second," and he ran off to the lake and dove in, and when he resurfaced, he pulled out the executioner's blade. Naruto moved the sword around, trying to get a feel for its weight, and he decided it would be a decent weapon, but not really his style. So the team gets on a small boat and rows to the land of waves. It was hard to see, but when the thick fog cleared, the group saw the fishing town, but it was nothing like they were expecting. The buildings were all looked run down, and Tazuna saw the look on their faces and said, "This is why I need to build a bridge." Gato had left the village poverty-ridden, and the team started to feel bad and realize what a good life they had lived in the village, like the Leaf Village. So the boat reached the dock and Zabuza led Team 7 to his house. Once they arrived, Tazuna welcomed them inside, and there his daughter was preparing dinner. She got excited seeing her father return safely, and she hugged him tightly, and he said, all right, you're gonna kill me." She laughed nervously and instructed everyone to sit down and have something to eat. They must be tired. So dinner is served, and Tazuna starts describing in detail all of what happened to his daughter, and she was amazed as well. Inari, who was right around the corner listening in, was actually taken aback by all of this. These ninjas would sacrifice all that to bring his grandpa home, so they actually might have a chance at beating Gato. So he stayed there and listened in on everything, and over the next few days, Kakashi taught Sasuke and Ino how to tree walk, and Naruto just couldn't learn it because he couldn't use chakra, something Naruto himself didn't know. He just got by without using it this whole time. And learning this now, Kakashi just couldn't believe Naruto. This incredible strength had nothing to do with chakra. What else does this kid have up his sleeves? So we see Team 7 patrolling the bridge, and while Tazuna and his men were working, Naruto during this time made a sling to hold his sword on his back. So while he was making his rounds around the bridge, Naruto and the others realized a thick fog was moving in. Kakashi thought, there's no way, even if he was still alive, he couldn't cast any jutsu. And from the mist, Tazuna spoke, "Miss me, Kakashi? I had to come back to get my sword." Kakashi shouted, "Zabuza, show yourself!" In front of Kakashi, the mist cleared a bit and Zabuza slowly walked towards him. His arm attached, and Kakashi could only say one word, "How?" Zabuza said, "Let's just say a friend of mine is good with medicine." Meanwhile, Haku was sneaking up behind Ino to try and take her out silently. Quickly, I want to mention, if I ever say she referring to Haku, I mean he. Like, I have he in the script, I just subconsciously say he without realizing it, so my apologies. He almost reached her when Naruto came out of nowhere and kicked him away. Haku was confused. How did he see him? Like I mentioned earlier, Naruto can sense heat signatures, so going blind isn't too much of a problem for Naruto. Haku thought, whatever, I'll just take care of this. He took out his senbon and started raining down on Naruto. The senbons lodged into Naruto all over, but he just flexed his muscles and they all came popping out. Haku thought, what is this guy? He's a freak or something. But right in front of her eyes, Naruto disappeared, or so she thought. He was just moving really fast. He began darting his head around trying to find it, but from above, Naruto came down, kicking him across the head and knocking him out. Naruto was severely weakened because the mist was blocking out the sunlight, but it was enough to take him down. Back with Kakashi, without his sword, Zabuza was almost defenseless. So as Kakashi wore him out and finally prepared his Chidori, he ran at Zabuza, but it was as if Haku's body moved on its own. She jumped in front of Kakashi's attack, but it went right through both her and Zabuza. Haku died instantly, but Zabuza was alive to see the life leave her body. And as if it couldn't get any worse, Gato and his men arrived. This time around, Zabuza was on death's doorstep. He was way too weak to fight, but Naruto said, rest up Zabuza, you deserve it. Gato started talking all this crap about how he wasn't even gonna pay them anyways, and they were just his playthings. Naruto was sick of hearing this, and so was Sasuke. He stood beside Naruto and said, ready? Naruto pulled out the executioner's blade and said, ready. They both dashed into the crowd, Naruto mowing down anyone that stands in his way. Sasuke was taking them down, but the sheer number of them was overwhelming. He was cornered for a second, but then at the verge of being killed, his Sharingan awakened. Sasuke dodged all the attack and jumped into the air, weaving hand signs for the great fireball jutsu and roasting everyone caught in the attack. Soon it was no one left but Gato. Now he was sweating, but Gato still had a smart mouth and said, you think killing my men will do anything? I'll still kill you, taking out a single kunai he'd always carry on him. Naruto though disappeared from his vision, appearing behind him, and Naruto said, who decided that? Fully engulfed in the sun's greatness, Naruto grabbed Gato by the face and started burning it off, the skin, muscle, and soon his bone, melting like a snowman in the summer. His body dropped to the ground and Naruto walks off, satisfied. Soon the villagers came to fight off Gato's men, but it was already taken care of. Fast forward a day and the bridge was finally built, and Tazuna names it the Great Naruto Bridge. And with that, Team 7 returns to the Leaf, a mission complete. After the defeat of Zabuza, Haku, and Gato's entire army, the name of Naruto, the Sun God, spread throughout the Land of Waves. And with it now being a trading hub of the Land of Fire, with the newly built bridge, this name would begin to spread far and wide. So back with Team 7. They return to the village not long after and report to Hiruzen of their mission success and of the increase of the mission's rank to at least a B rank. Hiruzen compensated them well before they left. Hiruzen said, you guys should start getting ready for the Chunin exams. And Ino was the most surprised at all. She didn't expect the Chunin exams to be so soon. So the whole team had their work cut out for them. First things first, with his new sword, Naruto decided to get some changes to it. It's to match his style. And he remembers there's a blacksmithing shop right outside the shopping district. Naruto made his way over to the shop, and after getting lost a bit, he finally found it. Naruto walked in and it seemed like it was right out of a book. It was real old-fashioned, with the blacksmith's best sword displayed on the walls. Naruto rang the bell to notify that he was waiting, and Tenten actually walked out. She had a rag in her hand rubbing off all the dirt because she was just working on a sword, and said, what can I do for you? Naruto reached around to his back and pulled out the executioner's blade, and Tenten's eyes lit up. She ripped it out of Naruto's hands and started inspecting it, even going so far as to cut herself. and she was completely entranced by the sword's craftsmanship. She said, "Are you gonna sell it?" Naruto said, "No, I was actually wondering if you could melt it down and create a completely new weapon." Tenten was reluctant to do so, destroying something this important. How could she? But Naruto pulled out almost all the money he made from the mission, and it was a lot, so she couldn't refuse really. I mean, she could, but it was a lot of money. Tenten took the money and told Naruto to just return in a week. She'll surprise him. Naruto said, "Sure, why not?" and left. So during this time, Naruto would meditate outside in the sun while Ino and Sasuke train. They were wondering what he was up to. This isn't gonna make him any stronger, which is actually wrong. Naruto staying in the sun to absorb all of its energy and direct it to Kurama. The more he's exposed to the power, the more control he'll have of it. So we get to the week Naruto had to pick up his weapon. He walked into Tenten's shop and she was already sitting down with a case in front of her. Naruto walked up and said, "Is this it?" And Tenten held the case down with both her hands and said, "Don't get mad, but I might have gotten the weight off a bit. It's really concentrated in the head of the axe, and I can't even lift it, to be honest." Naruto said, "It's fine, just open the case." So she opened it to reveal a golden two-handed axe. The head of the axe was crescent shaped and had two spearheads coming from the top and another directly behind the main axe blade. On screen there should be an image, but knowing me, my memory is completely trash. So Naruto picked it up with one hand and Tenten said, "Wait, it's a two-handed sword." But Naruto picked it up and started swinging it around and said, "No, it's perfect, I love it, thanks," and walks off. Tenten was just baffled by Naruto's strength and nonchalance, if that's even a word. Naruto returned to his usual training routine and Ino asked about the axe and Naruto said, "No, it's the same sword from before, just a little different." And Ino said, "A little," and Naruto chuckled a bit. But anyways, during this time, neither Ino or Sasuke were slacking off. They trained by themselves with the use of scrolls from their respective clans. Ino learned telepathy and a basic form of sensory, and Sasuke added more fire techniques to his arsenal. So to the day of the Chunin exams, Naruto and his team are walking to the academy when they see two Sand Shinobi roughing up the Hokage's grandson. Naruto walked up to Kankuro and said, "You might want to put him down." Kankuro said, "Or what?" But when he looked up at Naruto, he started to stutter. Naruto is now towering 6 foot over him, 200 pounds of legit pure muscle. Kankuro said, yeah, we were already on our way to the Chunin exams," and just dropped Kankuro. Gaara, who was watching from above, for the first time felt fear. He doesn't know what it is, but something about Naruto just isn't right. It's above a tail beast, something like an incarnation of God. So Naruto and his team make it to the Chunin exams and are immediately blocked off because a crowd of Genins are trying to get through to the door. Naruto and his team though manage to squeeze through and Sasuke tell them about how the genjutsu at the door. So they just never mind that and go to the next floor where the actual exams are. Neji was watching Naruto as he walked in and he activated his Byakugan. Neji couldn't believe his eyes. No, his Byakugans must be broken. Naruto didn't have any chakra flowing through him. How is he even alive? Even villagers have a small amount coursing through them. But this was just unheard of. So before Naruto and his team entered the actual first stage of the Chunin exams, Lee approached Naruto and said, "I've heard of you, Naruto Uzumaki. Your team beat Gato's troops, but you seem to be the strongest. Fight me." Naruto would definitely fight him, but he looked over to his team and Ino nodded her head no, looking annoyed. And Naruto said, "Oh well Lee, I'd love to fight, but we have plenty of time in the exam." So Naruto and his team walk into the first stage of the Chunin exams. The room was filled with genins from other villages who looked in awe at Naruto. So the rumors were true. Naruto Uzumaki was the only a genin said to be double S rank. As Naruto walked in, Ibiki came into the room and instructed everyone to get inside to start the test. Everyone was seated far apart from their teams, so the test was handed out, and these were pretty hard questions. Questions like the trajectory of kunai you need to throw to hit a target, and things like that. So as time went by, Naruto managed to answer 5 out of the 10 questions, but then Ibiki announced everyone to drop their pencils. Naruto looked around and just realized that a lot of people had left, he guessed, due to them being caught for cheating. But Ibiki began to explain the final question. Simply, if you answer it and get it, if you agree to answer it and get it correct, you pass and move on, but if you fail, you will never be able to take the Chunin exams ever again. But this didn't sway Naruto, or even Sasuke. They stayed while a lot of people left, and by a lot I mean over 50% of the people left in the room. Leaving the winner, Ibiki explained how it was just a test, there's no final question, so they all get to move on. And from the main door of the classroom, Anko walked in saying, "You done, Ibiki?" And Ibiki was surprised, saying "Anko, are you feeling okay? You're supposed to jump through the window." And she said, "Nah, you're always complaining about me doing that, so I decided to listen for once." And Ibiki was happily surprised and said, "Well, they're all yours." So to the Forest of Death. Right outside the forest, Anko is explaining all the rules, including that killing is allowed. And some people did get unnerved by this, but stayed strong. So after that, they signed, the waivers and collected their scrolls. Naruto's team had a heavenly scroll. So with their scroll, they headed to one of the many gates surrounding the Forest of Death, waiting for Anko's instructions to head inside. And not long after, she said, "Begin." All the teams ran inside the forest ready to fight for the scrolls. As Team 7 hopped from branch to branch, they had to stop because someone was standing in front of them. Naruto was the first to speak. "Hey, is everything alright?" The man turned around and he was wearing a black robe with red clouds. He had long black hair, and when he saw Sasuke, he began licking his lips. Naruto said, "You better leave if you're not trying to get hurt." The man spoke. "Naruto, the god of sun, with a reputation like yours, do you really think I'd come alone?" From the trees above dropped all the members of the Akatsuki at that moment. Kisame, Kankuro, Konan, Pain, Sasori, Itachi. Sasuke, seeing his brother, angered him. He wanted answers, but this wasn't the time. Naruto looked around the pickle that they were in, and Naruto turned to his other teammates and said, "Run." Ino looked at Naruto and said, "What? I can't run." Naruto said, "Run, they're obviously after me." Ino grabbed Naruto's hand and said, "I won't." Naruto couldn't do what he needed to do with them there, so he had to think outside the box. And he grabbed both Sasuke and Ino, and before he threw them, he turned to Ino and said, "I love you, that's why I need to do this." And he threw both of them as hard as he could away from here. After doing that, Kisame said, "Was that smart, kid? Now it's 7-1. Naruto said, "No, 7 to infinity." They were all confused until Naruto pointed to the sky and said, "The sun is at its peak." With the boost, Naruto grew to a monstrous size, 8 foot 600 pounds. Now releasing the stored energy from Kurama, Naruto's flames turned white. The leaves on the trees nearby started to catch flames. Then Naruto moved so fast even Itachi couldn't perceive him, and he came right behind Kisame, and by just opening his palm, a wave of heat permeated through Kisame's body, cooking him, until he fell over dead. But Naruto wasn't even done. He pulled out his axe and went for Sasori, but just being near him burnt the wood he was made of, killing him. Naruto realized that this would take a long time because those he killed didn't fight back, and Akatsuki members are nothing to joke about. So Naruto went to a branch by himself and began to take deep breaths. At this point, they were trying to attack him, but nothing was working. Naruto then said, "Take this, cruel star." A colossal ball of pure white flames was created. Pain and the other Akatsuki tried running, but it was useless. Naruto shot the attack to the ground, and this costed him all his stored up energy from the sun, and this left him susceptible to his own attack. The attack burned miles of forest in the forest of death, killing anyone caught in it. Even if you weren't, the heat was something else entirely. Luckily, Naruto had overestimated his throw, and Ino and Sasuke were near the mansion in the middle of the forest of death. They saw a near blinding light coming from that direction, and Ino immediately wanted to go back, but just from where they were, the heat was almost unbearable. So they made the best decision and go to the Hokage's mansion. Hiruzen was not only humiliated because 7 people snuck into the village, but everyone in the forest of death is at risk of, well, death. So Hiruzen got his Anbu to work double to clear the forest of death and recover as many as they could. And like the very beginning, the Anbu found Naruto's body scorched to a crisp. This time though, it was even worse. Imagine Armin from Attack on Titan, after he got burnt by the Colossal Titan. And if you don't know what that means, check on screen, there should be an image. But yeah, hopefully. Anyways, Naruto is normally immune to all fire or heat, but he drained his power to use that last ability. So even though it didn't kill him, it had severely injured him. Fast forward a week, and the Leaf had gotten the Forests of Death under control, and Hiruzen sent out a search party to find the only person he knows is able to save Naruto's life. Fast forward 2 weeks, and finally, Tsunade had been found. She was taken to the village, and in Naruto's hospital room, she saw him in the worst conditions she's seen any patient of hers ever in. So she questioned if he was even still alive. Tsunade placed her hand on Naruto, and though faint he was. She said, "Well, there's no regular way to heal him, so I'll have to use it," pointing to the diamond on her forehead. Tsunade activated the 100 healing seal and placed her hand on Naruto. A faint green orb appeared around her hand, and slowly Naruto's skin was healing from top to bottom. And after about an hour, he was completely fine, or so he looked. Naruto would need many months to get back in any sort of normality. So fast forward 4 months. Naruto opens his eyes and the room was completely empty. He got up slowly and limped over to a window, and he opened it and slowly started to regain his strength back. Just from being in sight of the sun, it started to heal him again. So Naruto looked down at his hands and he saw how he was basically bone. He had no muscle, nothing. But he could visually see them growing from just being exposed to the sun. So after a few minutes, Naruto was feeling almost back to himself. He walked out of the hospital room and passed the reception, telling them thanks. The lady said no problem, but did a double take and said, "Wait, Naruto?" He took out one of his hands out of his pockets and waved goodbye. Naruto started walking around the village, and no one really recognized him because his hair was pretty long, at his shoulders. So Naruto went to the training ground where his team would normally be, but they weren't. So he thought of the next best thing, and it was the Hokage's mansion. Maybe he could talk to Hiruzen. To avoid the receptionist, Naruto took the scenic route, basically climbed up the building. While Tsunade was working in her office, she heard a tap on the glass, and she turned around and Naruto waved. Tsunade's eyes widened and she opened the window and said, "Naruto, when did you wake up?" He said, about a few minutes ago. And Tsunade was surprised because he looked healthy. And Naruto said, "So, I'm guessing you took over the old man's position." Tsunade said, "Yeah, he retired." And Naruto replied, "Yeah, just keep that seat warm for me." And Tsunade chuckled a bit, and he asked, "So, where's Team 7? And she said, "Oh, yeah, they're in the farmlands to the east. I just gave them the mission, but Before she could even finish, Naruto was off. So he got there in no time and saw them fighting a group of ninjas. One weaved a water style attack at Ino, then Naruto ran in to block the attack. Ino thought she was done for but looked up to see the flowing blonde hair. Ino smiled and said, "Look who's finally awake." Naruto faced the ninjas and in almost an instant punched all three of them in the gut, leaving them squirming on the ground. Naruto turned to his team and said, "Miss me?" Sasuke said, "Whatever. Also, you owe me big time. You killed my brother, you idiot." Then Ino said, "It's good to see you back." Then Kakashi walked up to Naruto and with a pat on his shoulder said, "Minato and Kushina would be happy to see how their son turned out." With the news, Naruto wasn't shocked, angry, or sad. He was extremely happy. Now, Naruto can focus on making the village a better and safer place, not only for him, but for the generations after. Now that is where I'm going to be leaving this one off. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end. Again, I'd appreciate it if you guys subscribe. It means a lot. And just drop in the comments, it helps the video out tremendously. And I'll see you guys all in the next What If.